What's up guys, this week we're bringing you a whopping 3 videos. That's right, it's Pikachu week. And though Ash's Pikachu may not ever want to evolve, it's our duty to talk about the next form nonetheless. That's right, it's Raichu. Unfortunately for Raichu, its biggest appearance I can personally remember is it falling flat on its face in the anime trying to hit Pikachu, which is pretty embarrassing. I guess that was one of the times the show actually ever told us something about the games that was accurate. Like the fact that Pokemon that evolve through stones usually can't learn level up moves after that. And poor Raichu has sort of fallen to the wayside as the bigger, uglier, less popular version of the literal most iconic Pokemon in the world. Honestly, how many people do you know that love Raichu? The only people that I know are Kira and the people who voted for this video. I think even Pichu has more fans than poor old Raichu. In fact, even the Ultra Moon Pokedex entry knows how unpopular Raichu is. It says because so many trainers like the way Pikachu looks, you don't see this Pokemon very often. When Game Freak themselves are talking about how unloved you are, you know things aren't great. But then again, we all know popularity amongst fans doesn't matter in competitive Pokemon. So let's find out, how good is Raichu actually? And in this video, we'll be covering these competitive formats. Raichu's attacking stats aren't actually that awful, and despite Pikachu defeating it with agility, it has a 10-point stat boost from its previous form for a nice base 100. But its HP and defense are what you would expect from a rat. The thing you really have to think about when looking at Raichu is why would I use this thing over Jolteon or Zapdos? Now the answer to that nominally comes in its inherited ability to shred sick waves with Surf, allowing it to drown Golem and Rhydon. But that also comes with a trade-off, which is a complete lack of anything to threaten grass types with. Jolteon's Pin Missile and Zapdos' Drill Peck allowed them to deal with the threatening Exeggutor, and their stats were just straight up better. Being able to surf just wasn't enough to set Raichu apart, and it also got completely annihilated by special walls like Chansey, Snorlax, and Alakazam. Sure, it could spread status a bit, but really, just use Jolteon. Raichu was thoroughly outclassed and languished in the depths of underuse, and H tier for Nintendo Cup, the lowest ranked tier. Raichu lost 10 special defense in Gen 2, but luckily for it, a swell started to build with the advent of Rain Dance. As a potent user of both Surf and Thunder, Raichu loved playing in the rain, and that 100 speed mattered a lot more than its middling special attack late game, where it could be a quite strong cleaner. Substitute and Thunder Wave could alternately provide either defensive backup or targeted utility. Raichu also had the option of going more standard with Seismic Toss and Thunderbolt, but it wasn't a super threatening option. Its other interesting variant was as a support. As the second fastest Pokemon with Encore in the game, Raichu could easily trap any of the throng of Curse users that dominated GSC, and then lower their attack if necessary with Charm. That would give Raichu time to boost its teams with screens or attack and strategically eliminate the threat. While at one point Raichu's late game sweeping abilities had it in borderline, the increased popularity of Blissey proved a huge issue for it. Blissey, alongside its other normal wall Snorlax, completely ended Raichu's chance of blasting through the opposing team. Additionally, while it could now hit grass types with HP Ice, that certainly wasn't that strong of an option, and it still had the same issues against them and other Pokemon that could either outspeed it or tank a hit, because Raichu certainly wasn't tanking anything. In the modern GSC metagame, Raichu is solidly underused again, outclassed by other electric types with either more firepower or an ability to take hits. It should be apparent by this point that Raichu's stats simply don't cut it, thus it had to rely on extremely specific sets that took advantage of the more niche parts of its move pool. In Gen 3 overuse, this took the form of yet another Encore set, but this time with TM01, Focus Punch. After trapping with Encore, Raichu could utilize its respectable attack stat to land a Focus Punch, or some other move on the Force Switch, usually Hidden Power Grass on something like Swampert. That set then usually had to switch out, but Raichu did have a more standard sweeper set as well, albeit still throwing out punches. Other fun parts of its move pool like Reversal and Wish also existed, revolving around surprising the opponent with Raichu and doing things Raichu doesn't usually do, like one-hit KOing Blissey or being a makeshift cleric. That said, Raichu's standard sets were more common, but that doesn't mean they were good. That long-standing grass-type weakness persisted into Gen 3, and both Venusaur and Celebi ate our tubby rat friend up. Standard specially defensive walls like Blissey, Snorlax, and Regice had the table slipped on them because of Focus Punch, but could halt Raichu in its tracks if it didn't get to set up, or if it lacked that move. And Dusclops phased right through Raichu's stubby fists. While some Raichu still ran Surf, it was far more rare, meaning ground types were finally free to ruin its day, with some choice options being Flygon, Claydol, and Donphan, plus the aforementioned Swampert, who had to be predicted to be dealt with. Raichu also just rolled over to any Pokemon using a strong physical move, especially what happened to be one of the best physical moves around, period. Earthquake. Can you say Dugtrio? Its fragility was really its biggest weakness. As a Pokemon that thrived on stopping attacks, it certainly couldn't take any hits, like a bully that taunts you and then cries if you actually fight them. Raichu was once again underused, where it had an even harder time being unique, as Focus Punch wasn't as suited for the meta and it just became another special sweeper. Raichu got a few new tools with Natsu Plot and Focus Blast, giving it new coverage, but most of the time it ended up even weaker than Pikachu, who at least had a broken item doubling its attacks. Instead of Light Ball, Raichu relied on the significantly less strong purple orb, Life Orb. Sure, with the Natsu Plot it outstripped its unevolved form, but good luck getting that setup going, or even Sub Punch with Raichu's paper-thin defenses. As power creep slowly but surely started, Raichu found itself facing many of its counters, like Chansey, Venusaur, and Donphan, in underuse. And Raichu really couldn't even handle those things, so predictably, it fell to never use. Dire straits for the big brother of the king of Pokemon. Gen 5 brought one big change to Raichu's arsenal, Lightning Rod. Now in singles that meant nothing. Aside from being able to switch in on predicted electric types, Raichu was still a mediocre electric type in never use, with its only saving graces being Natsu Plot, Encore, and the occasional Focus Punch to take advantage of its okay attack. But we won't waste any time. Raichu was solidly never used again, with very rare appearances in underuse. But over in VGC, Lightning Rod went to full use, as did Raichu's access to one of the most dominant moves in VGC, Fake Out. Now even with these two useful doubles attributes, Raichu wouldn't have been able to keep up, but Gen 5 brought one of Raichu's old friends back in full force, Rain. Raichu wasn't going to be doing any surfing itself this time, but with the ability to hit water types hard and absorb electric moves, Raichu made for a decent anti or pro-rain Pokemon that could also control speed with Fake Out, Encore, and possible discharge paralysis. That said, Sand started to dominate VGC later on, and as a niche rain-centric Pokemon, Raichu fell to the wayside. That's also because Raichu was knocked over by a stiff breeze, basically Earthquake, meaning Focus Sash was its best item choice. Gastrodon, Tyranitar, Terrakion, and Garchomp all had potential super effective moves to be scared of, but usually packed berries that allowed to run over Raichu if it had the correct attacking move. And faster Fake Out users like Weavile pretty much made Raichu dead weight by systematically eliminating it. Raichu certainly wasn't a top VGC threat, but it at least was better than it was in singles. And speaking of singles, actually, you know what? Let's really not talk about Raichu in Gen 6 singles, because it's not a fun time. PU. That's all you need to know, friends. Yeah, I'm sorry. Luckily for Raichu, its 10-point boost to speed in Gen 6 made it even more threatening in VGC. The 2014 format, in which only regional dexes were allowed, let Raichu show up in a big way as a pure support Pokemon. With Fake Out, Encore, and Lightning Rod, Raichu leads could hard counter double protects and draw attacks that might threaten other teammates. Combined with Volt Switch, Raichu was an annoying and fast Pokemon that racked up damage and built momentum. It partnered extremely well with the Pokemon that wanted to set up. In fact, the most famous Raichu appearance was at the hands of Chinese dude, who piloted alongside Mega Gengar to win Seattle Regionals, using Volt Switch to bring Gengar back in on the same turn at Paris Trap. Raichu was also used to great effect by Baz Anderson, who won the 2014 Nugget Bridge Invitational, using it alongside Belly Drum Azumarill, and even made Melbourne Regionals runner-up on Dane O'Meara's team, which utilized Raichu's strength by protecting his Politoed and Lapras with it. In fact, O'Meara took that team all the way to top 8 at Worlds, where a different electric rat managed to prevail. Of course, Raichu's fragility made it a risky pick, but when played well, it was a fast and loose annoyer that facilitated the rest of its team like no other. It continued to be used occasionally in other 6th Gen VGC years, but the introduction of Mega Lopunny, who also packed Encore, Fake Out, and a whole bunch of attacking power to boot, slowly phased it out. And hey, Seigen's Pachirisu had proved itself an incredible defensive Pokemon anyways, using Nuzzle as well. Raichu made a resurgence in 2016 due to its ability to one-hit KO Primal Kyogre, with something like a Magnet boosted Volt Tackle, or really most Lightning Rod boosted electric moves. In fact, it was on several teams at Worlds, and Wolf Glick took it all the way to first place during the 2016 VGC World Championships, using a set with Nuzzle, Fake Out, Endeavor, Volt Switch, and Assault Vest to survive strong special attacks in the rain. It could even survive an Origin Pulse from Primal Kyogre in the Primordial Sea. Thanks to Volt Switch, it could frequently hit and run other Pokemon and could switch back in to absorb a baited Thunder from an opposing Primal Kyogre or other Pokemon. And should Raichu's HP get low, it could endeavor strong Pokemon like the legendary Pokemon and bring them down to the same HP as it, allowing the rest of the team to finish them off. And after seeing all this, I guess Raichu's movesets was just good versus the most common Pokemon in the meta. Good stuff to Wolfie and to Marcus Statter, who he built the team with, and fellow German Baris Akos, who also made top 8 with the team. Finally, some mention has to be made to Alolan Raichu, but not in singles though. In VGC 2017, paired with Tapu Koko and its Surge Surfer ability, the new Raichu form sacrificed Lightning Rod for a whole bunch of speed, giving it a supremely fast fake out and a whole lot of damage, plus guaranteed paralysis from its signature Z move, Stoke Spark Surfer, if it didn't kill. While Alolan Raichu didn't make it too far at Worlds, several teams featuring it at least made impressive impacts on the tournament, especially Alvin Hidayat, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, of Indonesia. And yeah, I know I normally don't cover Gen 7 because the meta hasn't really finished yet, but I know you guys are gonna be asking for Alolan Raichu in this video if I didn't do it. So here's a special mention of it. And that's it. So how good was Raichu actually? Honestly, it was pretty bad in singles. It had some late resurgence as a VGC mon, but in singles, Raichu in every form has always been in the lowest possible tier, aside from a short stint in Gen 2 borderline, due to a lack of good stats and being just straight up outclassed. And we all know that it'll never be as popular as Pikachu. But hey, maybe Pikachu was better. Why don't you find out? Shameless plug. Thanks for watching, everyone. And as always, if you liked the video and want to see more, be sure to subscribe to Fall Swipe Gaming for more weekly Pokemon content. And of course, as I always say, comment on what Pokemon you want to see next. Also, thank you so much to our patrons for continued support of our videos, and thank you to all of you as well. And follow my crew on these social media platforms. And that's all I got. See you next time, everyone.